Hi, my name is Helia Singh and welcome to my show, Wealth Coaching with Helia Singh, the fastest way to build wealth. Hi, welcome to today's show. My name is Helia Singh and you are watching another episode of our Wealth TV. Whether you like to admit it or not, we all talk to ourselves in a good way. So I'm sure you all had an experience that you went to buy something which was a bit out of your budget, but then you started rationalizing that, okay, why you need this, and trying to go through that one thing versus needing things. But there was someone inside you that, I love it, I like it, I want to have it. And I don't know whether you end up buying it and then feel guilty after that, or no, you just told that your inner voice that, look, I know you love me, but that's it. You can't afford it right now. Let's come back and do it later. So you all had that experience. So, and that, my friend, is inner dialogue, or you're talking to yourself. It's between two ears. There is two people there, which is constantly talking to each other. Actually, talking to yourself is not a problem. But the problem arises when you have a conflict with the other person inside you. And if you start ignoring that person, so then the consequence will come later on. Because like any normal conversation to an external person, there is always 4 outcomes out of any conflict, or when we call it conflict resolution, is either you both win, which is a perfect ideal way, or you both lose, or one person win, the other person lose. So now this is exactly the same thing when you talk to yourself. But in the world of psychology, they refer to that 2 voices inside the self as your inner child and your inner parent. And obviously you don't want to make your inner child ignored for a long time, because sooner or later he or she is going to surface and do something that's what we refer to, that why that person did this behavior is out of character for that person. It wasn't out of character. That was their inner child finally coming out and throwing that tantrum and say, look, you've been ignoring me for so long. It's now time for me to shine and take control. So now, before I forget and also you forget, and you get busy with life, so please like this video or save it, so then later on you can refer to this. And if so far you've been thinking, this is a wealth TV or wealth tips, I was thinking that I'm going to listen to some wealth strategy, why I'm listening this inner child conversation. So again, that's the inner dialogue within you. I'm sure inside you there was something is telling you that, look, continue, this is interesting. But then the adult inside you that, okay, look, I will leave it and I will go watch some practical show about wealth creation. Whether you choose to continue or not, I'm sure one day you're going to come back and watch this video, because it's really going to help you. And I have a great guest later on today. So it's just gonna, surprise you guys, and you're gonna learn much more about yourself and the connection between our inner conversation, inner parenting or self-parenting, who is in charge of our wealth creation and or wealth destruction. I've been super excited about today's show because finally my basically hero these days, he agreed to join us to this episode. So we want to talk to you about the self-parenting and how is it related to your life. We all learn our money concept or money understanding at a very, very basic age, or even before 5 or 6. So, and since then, actually, we learned it from our parents or guardian or whoever was our in charge or guardians. So, but it doesn't matter how much educated we become or how much money we make. Somehow, it's all because of whatever we learned at that young age. It's all a reflection of our childhood experience or encounter with money matters. So whether you just become a super rich and feel that that's it, I want to go against my family and choose the rebellious way to make a lot of money, even though your family believe that no, money is the root of evil, still, I'm sorry to say, you still will have that inner conflict unless you reach to that peace and win-win that we talked earlier with yourself, that it's all okay to have lots of money. Many people, they want to have money, but their actions actually says the otherwise, and it's just because of that inner conflict that they have with the money. So the thing is, we cannot go back and choose our parents to make sure we have a parents who understand about money or have a positive thinking around money. But the good news is, by learning the positive self-parenting, we can get in charge of what we believe and start that having that nice conversation, peaceful conversation with our inner child to come in peace with money, fame, happiness, and many, many other aspects of our lives. So another reason why this inner dialogue is so important, for that matter, I need to share with you a personal story. And actually I share with you with complete humility, because what I went through, even though I was a bit hesitant when I was writing this material for today's show, but I thought that will be appropriate exactly because this is exactly how it helped me to come out of that problem. For those of you who know me and you know my epiphany of that 8 years ago, my 5-year-old daughter that time pointed out that I never loved myself. And that time, actually, my journey of self-discovery and self-improvement and self-love started. I've come a long way. So I remember 8 years ago when that happened, and I finally realized my problem was been that I always neglected myself. I never loved myself as a child. That work and self-development helped me in that particular financial year. I recall very well, and I have obviously proofs to show that my revenue for that financial year got triple, even though I didn't do anything different. But apparently, when you start realizing your self-worth and self-love, you attract the right clients and right opportunities. And that's what I like to call or refer to it as a law of attraction, that you do the work, but unless you do the inner work, you cannot attract the situation you really want to have in your life. So almost everything has been well, and again, since last year, at least every month, you guys have seen a different episode in our Bird TV, and more and less you know about what I've been doing in my life. And I've been busy, I've been obviously loving whatever I'm doing, but about mid-August this year, about a couple of months ago, something happened and I had an emotional meltdown. And the funny thing is, it was even after that I became a national award winner, and I had an interview with a very prestigious magazine. So I had everything that I always wanted, but that emotional meltdown was really unexpected. I thought I had everything under control. Now when that happened, I felt like an imposter. I started even going back to my old habits of self-criticizing and feeling like a victim, and just feeling that, okay, what's the point? If I cannot fix myself, how can I go out and claim that I can help other people? But since I always believe that everything happens to me is actually happens for me, I try to just repeat that mantra in my mind, that just something to help me to get out of that thinking or victim mindset. And I recall that just before this meltdown happens, by universe plan, I met my today's guest, and it was through an online course that I did, which was through Zoom, and it was a refresher course to meet other coaches. And even though we were about 200 participants, just by chance, pure chance and luck, I was in a room with him in a one-to-one conversation. And when he started talking about the self-parenting and self-love, immediately I started Googling him and find out about his books. And I was so surprised and impressed, obviously. Immediately, while talking to him, I ordered this book, which you couldn't even believe it. So, and I text him later on the receipt that, look, I ordered, I can't wait to receive your books. So, and then during this time that even though I was having this emotional meltdown, I suddenly, out of nowhere, I just got sick, which lasted for weeks. I had a very bad cold and flu. It wasn't corona, but it just didn't know why I'm not getting better. But while I was waiting for my book to arrive, and and I was feeling that again emotional meltdown. Finally, I received this book and I started reading. And the more I read it, the more I realized that even my sickness, the symptoms I had, it was actually my inner child desperate attempt to get my attention to love her. I've been ignoring her for a long time, long time. It's just because I've been putting a brave face and using that, well, I'm an adult, I've got responsibilities, I've got obligations, and I've neglected that little child inside me. And then the aha moment again happened. God knows how many aha moments I had in my life, but definitely the recent one was very, basically it was saving my life. And it felt so good. I read the book up to a chapter where actually the daily practice is going to happen there, or the program will start. And again, read it again, and then everything just finally sit together that yes, where is the problem? And I've been doing obviously this work every day for the last 2.5 weeks. And I know I've got a long way to completely heal this relationship between my inner child and my adult person, but I know for a fact that I've got a proven system and a mentor rule to rely on, and that's such a relief. And for that, my inner child is very happy. So now I know I kept you guys too long to know that, okay, who is this mystery guest? I'm going to tell you more about him in a minute and read you a brief CV of him to know exactly who I'm talking about. And this is one of his books that I've got. And the self-parenting book is the book that I believe everybody needs to have it. His name is Dr. John K. Pollard III. He is the creator of self-parenting in 1987. During this period, he was the featured guest of many news and television interviews, including CNN, Good Morning Australia, and many other articles and magazines all around the world. And he became the first inner child author endorsed and recommended by psychological teachers such as Louise Hay and John Bradshaw and Ken Case Jr. In 1992, he created or published a second book on advanced principles of self-parenting, which is basically a self-parenting program, and also created and ran his self-publishing company to present this self-parenting in both United States and America. In 2006, he created the book called The Digestive Awareness Diet, so to explain the normal function of the digestive system. And in 2008, he created another book to explain how relationships work, which definitely that's my next to-do list. And in 2010, he created a book to explain generic human studies. So now, with no further ado, I'm inviting our VIP guest today to the show, Dr. John K. Pollard III. Hi, John. Thanks for coming to my show. I'm really excited to have you here.
And thank you for having me, because this is quite exciting.
Earlier, I was telling my audience about how the universe arranged for us to meet. And I think you definitely came at the right time in my life, because just soon after that, that I was telling you the other day, I had a meltdown, emotional meltdown, and your books and your guidance, it just really helped me to pull through that, and I really appreciate you for that. And so I started reading your book, and like a child who once, found something and they get a prize and they want to show it off to the world, I felt the need that I wanted to show you to the world, or at least to my audience, so they can appreciate and learn as much as I did. So, and obviously I've been very excited going through those dialogue, everyday dialogue, and I wake up with that enthusiasm that I want to write it. I have to talk to my inner child, which has been great. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So now may I ask you a few questions, please?
Sure, and I'm excited for you to be in this spot right now because it is really great. It's like I mean, having a child is such a big thing for a parent, right? But having your inner child now is like it's
Yep.
it's double.
Yeah. Because we grow up and we hear that a lot from people, or obviously from our parents and siblings, that grow up, you're not a child anymore. And you just keep telling ourselves and that, yes, that's it, there is that time is gone. But obviously, no, that inner child is always stay with us, which is amazing. So now I'm going to start with my first question.
Okay.
So would you please take us through the journey of how this inner child or self-parenting started with you?
All right. So this was many years ago, and I was a meditator, and I was interested in the mind and all these kind of things. So I read a book called The Secret Science at Work by Max Freedom Long. And he was a person who was investigating the Hawaiian kahunas, who could do all these magical things, and no one knew how or why. They could heal, and they could do all kinds of tricks that no one in the West could figure out. Anyway, Max did the hard yards, and he found out that the religion of the Hunas had three selves. It had a higher self, a middle self, and a lower self. And he outlined the middle self and the lower self quite well. He had like 10 characteristics of the middle self and 10 characteristics of the low self. And I thought to myself, this middle self sounds like a parent, because it was like the rational, the logical, and then I thought this low self sounds like a child because it's the rebellious, the emotional. And I thought, I'm going to study outer parenting and see if I can parent. And then I thought, well, my inner child, right? Just I wasn't going to call it the low self. Didn't sound good. Low self. So I then quite, again, fortuitously studied a book called Parent Effectiveness Training, which is now well known and very famous. But and I learned how to be a positive outer parent, and I just took that and boom, worked it inside.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks for taking us through that journey. So,
And just
do you know how many people have benefited so far from your self-parenting book? Which obviously I already shown it to my audience. That's my
yeah,
Bible
show them
now.
that book. Show them that book. And also, there's a website, selfparenting.com. So,
Yeah. We
and
will
I
put
do have.
all your links in the comment show, so then
Oh,
my
good.
audience will see it. Yes.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, sure.
So okay. It's interesting with self-parenting because we're all parenting inside our mind all the time. Now, this is where, depending on the people listening, right? Some people do not know they have inner conversations. So that's that's kind of the first little dawning where you're thinking, I'm thinking all the time, and should I go to the movies now, or should I go to dinner, or should I study math, or should I study geology? and you're having this inner conversation. So the first inkling that you're self-parenting is that you're having an inner conversation, right? And then you have the people who, let's say they're, quote, out of control, and they're experiencing lows and they're suppressed, or they're withdrawn, or they're not happy inside. Those people can tell that emotionally they don't feel right, right? So that's another level. And then now, and this wasn't true back then, but now this word self-talk, you've heard that term? That's a popular term, self-talk. My self-talk is negative. And I see this a lot, the inner critic. We have to make the inner critic go away. So there's, as you know, my book came out in 1987, so probably before you were born. And it was brand new. The whole idea was brand new. And Inner Child got famous from that book, from that yellow book. And then some other famous people, John Bradshaw is one of them. He went worldwide, and Louise Hay, of course, everybody knows her. They, in my opinion, they got more credit for it, but I know they read my book because I used to talk to them. So then here's the situation. So let's say, to answer your question, maybe 100,000 copies of that book have been sold. Wow. But Inner Child became a phenomenon. It became worldwide. And it almost got to, there was a show on The Simpsons where they made fun of the inner child, because Bart was the inner child. So it had a huge, let's say from 87 to 92, it had a huge impact. But people miss the trick, and the trick is that you're self-parenting your inner child. It's not just the inner child that you have, it's that your inner child is being parented by your inner parent. And it's that conversation that one side of you says, let's do this. And the other side goes, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. And then the other side goes, no, well, we should. And the other guy, no, I don't want to. So it's that dialogue where you're talking to yourself, that your inner parent, which is your left brain, we'd say your rational mind, is the logical self, and it's saying, stay in school and do the right thing and don't break any laws. That's the inner parent. And that inner parent voice comes from the way you were parented. So if you had really good outer parenting, you have really good self-parent. But if you had bad outer parenting and always were in trouble and blamed, then you have a negative inner parent. But your inner child voice is who you were as a child, even though now you're an adult. And that's what I think for you, you're so excited to have your inner child be acknowledged and allowed to be that gentle, beautiful, happy, internal, emotional self, even though, we're older now. So it's a constant inner conversation, and self-parenting is what you're doing. So just one last thing, everybody's self-parenting, everybody, but they're just not aware of it. They don't know it. They're not conscious of it, and they're not trying to change. If it's been negative, they're not trying to change it to make it positive. So I am excited that you're letting people know, because it's an important thing to know. Yeah.
Very much so. In your book, you mentioned that obviously this inner dialogue between inner child and inner parent. So obviously sometimes there's a conflict is there, so and we have to resolve it. Just one question: is this conflict ever going to stop?
It will if you address it. If you don't do anything about it, no, it won't stop. Until something, I mean, let's say you want to go on vacation and you want to go skiing or you want to go camping, right? And if you have a fight inside your mind, you can't decide, well, then your vacation goes away anyway, because, it's over. And you never made a decision one way or the other. But what we call that is inner conflict. And it's basically when one side of you, the inner parent, says, I want to do this, and the inner child says, I want to do something else. And it's a conflict. You can't do both of them at the same time. So we have a part 2 in the book actually is discussing that. And there's 8 steps of inner conflict resolution. And it's funny if you go to the what is it? Any conflict like it used to be outer conflict resolution was really, really popular here in Australia. There was an institute and everything. But it's the same steps. You just put them inside, and that's one thing about the book is it teaches you how to separate the two voices, because a lot of times people can't tell which is which.
For sure.
But yeah, if you resolve it, you can resolve it in 10 minutes.
Wow, no, it's great. I look forward to that myself, even though it's been only 2.5 weeks since I started doing the actual daily routine or exercises. But I know that even in the afternoon, if suddenly I feel that inner conflict, I know what to do. I'll go through the steps and just try to do that, and recognizing which one was the inner child and which one was the inner parent. And then I'll leave it as per your advice that in the next day in the morning, then I will test it on that basis. So then I can really address it. But as soon as that happens, obviously the first step is acknowledging it, that there is a conflict. And for that, I'm already feeling the peace, which is, I think, is priceless.
Isn't that great? It is great, because just to accept it gives you a relaxation.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, the key is win-win.
Yes, exactly.
That's the key. Both sides can win-win, and then all of a sudden you're happy.
Yes, exactly. So as you know, John, my channel is all about wealth creation, but more in a psychology side of wealth rather than the boring strategy, even though I'm a financial advisor, we do those things. But I learned over years that if we don't address the mindset and other stuff, no matter how many strategy I give to someone, they may not accept it or feel right for them. So for the sake of my majority of audience, which they wanted to get some wealth tips, I know in your books you refer to inner conflict over lack of money. Would you please elaborate on that?
Okay, it's actually very interesting that you've presented this, because it is a topic of conversation. Wealth creation, right? Who doesn't want to be wealthy, right? Everybody. But they have different reasons why. So some people want to be wealthy for security, so they can live in a big house and put a gate around it and have armed guards or something. Some people want money so they can go on trips and have fun, and sensation is the key there. That they can eat whatever they want or go wherever they want. And some people want money so they can have power over people, and tell everybody what to do. And so what it turns out is a lot of these, if you're trying to get a wealth for a reason that's not compatible with your own personal mindset, let's say your inner parent goes, we got to get rich so we can be happy, and then inner child's going, well, I want to just I want to go to Africa and help the elephants. You can't generate the full motivation. You need both your mind and your emotions to achieve wealth. And then once you get wealth, you can blow it, and ruin it through bad self-parenting. So I was thinking about this, and I read a book a long time ago. It's not even in print anymore, but basically it said that people that get rich are the ones who do what they like because they're going to do it a lot. They're going to do it 10 or 12, 15 hours a day and not even think about it. And they're not going to try to get rich, but just because they get really good at doing what they're doing and they're having so much fun, eventually something happens for them. And that book, it did tell people how to get rich, and now it's kind of a cliche, do what you like and you'll be, you'll get rich. They didn't explain why. That book explained why. And then, you hear people say when they get there's some famous rich guy, oh, I just have fun all day. I would work for free,
Yeah.
And that's something you need to be in touch with your inner child to pull that off, because too many people go to medical school so they can be rich, right? Or they they do something that they don't want to do only for the purpose of money. So yeah. If I could say one thing to your clients, that with some self-parenting and getting to know your inner child, you need to work together to find something that you're both happy with, because how many people have tons of money and are just unbelievably unhappy? They're miserable every day. So
right.
It's
makes sense.
It's an internal sense. You can be happy without money.
Yep.
And you can be happy with money,
Yes.
So,
and obviously we see many people who are got lots of money, but actually they are miserable. So
it's a tragedy. And it would take something as simple as doing a half-hour session with their inner child to spark that joy again. And it's so simple. How much does that cost? How much does your self-parenting cost in the morning?
It's the effect is priceless. Yeah, definitely. Well, John, as you know, I grew up in a culture that self-love was actually prohibited, and it was equal to selfishness. And that's why it took me a long, long time to come in terms with self-love. But obviously, I still have my reservations sometimes. What would your advice to my audience or who will think this way?
Gee, culture is tough, because you're parented, you're little, you don't know anything, you just absorb what's around you, right? So if everybody's telling you do this, then that becomes your inner parent, right? And then when you become an adult, even though you're possibly able to do whatever you want, you're still imprisoned inside your mind, to follow what you've been told. So yeah, this is why self-parenting is inner parent work. It's not really about the inner child. The inner child's going to be happy in 3 months because you're doing self-parenting, you're paying attention. But your inner parent has got the years and years of programming that needs to be undone. So culture's tough. It is, it's tough. I know the Indian, Indians in India, they hardly ever make it past a certain point, because they have the mother and the grandmother and the grandparents and
Yep.
So yeah, to be an individual and be your own person, it's challenging. And your culture, I think, is the same. So
yes.
But you'll get there, because you just keep going with self-parenting, and eventually it comes to a point where you say, is it me or is it what everybody else thinks? And ideally you choose what you want to do, because we're all adults now, and we have that option, most of us anyway.
Oh, that's great. So even to distinguish the difference between selfishness and self-love, even that's the inner work parenting work. That's what you're suggesting. So this way, a person can really get in terms with that.
Yeah, if that's that's an interesting point. If somebody says you're selfish, but you're just being who you are, you can see how that's not right, so, but yeah, people that don't self-parent it, they're just trapped inside that mindset that they've had. And they got that from where? Their parents.
Yes,
Yeah. And where did their parents get it from?
from their own parents.
Their parents. So
Yeah.
it's a key that self-parenting is multi-generational, and it is hard. So maybe one day when the parents are both self-parenting, the child will have a lot better chance to be happy.
Okay, great. Now, one last question.
Okay.
What is your purpose in life? And have you been living the life of purpose that you want?
I would say yes. I started early, and my purpose has been to heal the human being, okay, as a person. And it's probably way too long a story, but the idea is if you have a computer, it can have three kind of problems. It can have a hardware problem, a software problem, or a network problem, right? That makes sense, right? Okay, so back again, years ago, I started thinking, well, what kind of problems can a human have? And a human can have a hardware problem, which is their body, their digestion, their hormonal system is hardware. They can have a software problem, which is self-parenting, left brain, right brain. And they can have a network problem, which is their relationships. So my book, How Relationships Work, explains how relationships work. And I would recommend that to anyone who's interested in that topic, because part of wealth creation is, relationships with other people.
For sure.
Not to mention you're happy because of your relationships, or you're not happy because of your relationships. Yeah. So for me, I feel this big idea is called generic human studies. And it's just that, in a very simple way, it's that idea that a human being has hardware, software, and network problems. But in the world, we'd say something wrong with their body, something wrong with their mind, or something wrong with their relationships. So, and then part of it is that you can, as a person, if you read How Relationships Work, you would figure out your relationship yourself. You don't have to go ask anyone else. If you self-parent, you can get your own answers, right? Without being told. And then the body work's something that, is part of my background as well, but that's more, it's a separate topic. But so, yeah, I appreciate you asking that, because it's almost a no-brainer when you start self-parenting. Let's say I'm very selfish. Now that I'm talking to you, I'm selfish, and I did what I wanted, and it was great. And that's why I spent hours and hours and hours, and I don't feel like there's no stone I did not unturned. So from that point of view, it's been a good life, actually.
That's right. Thanks again for your valuable time, John. I really, really appreciate it. And on behalf of everybody out there who you have changed their life by awakening their inner child, I'm eternally thankful and grateful for that. And wish you all the best in life, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks again.
Thank you, Helia. Very appreciative.
My encounter with Dr. John was a testimonial to the saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. So next time you catch yourself talking to yourself or having any inner conflict, as Dr. John, he put it very nicely, just remember, your inner child is in charge of your emotions and energies, but your inner parent is in charge of the rational, logical, and analyzing things. So then you know exactly who is talking, doing most of the talks and who is actually winning every time. Just keep a diary on that, and then you know that for a long, long time you've been ignoring that beautiful little child inside you. I will be obviously adding the links to his books and his programs and website in the comment section. So please get involved, make comments, and would love to hear your views. And please support me by liking and sharing this video with others. And until next episode, have a happy, healthy, wealthy life. Hi, my name is Helia Singh, and welcome to my show, Wealth Coaching with Helia Singh, the fastest way to build wealth.